Hello once again, everybody. Andrew Rogers here for TST Total Sports Talk. Thank you very much for joining me. It's a pleasure to have you guys here. Episode 22 on this Tuesday, March the 27th. I got a great show lined up for you today. Lots to talk about. The WOAA Senior AA Men's League crowned another champion. We'll get you caught up in that in just a moment. We talk about the Ontario Hockey League, the playoffs, first round, full swing. But it's been nothing short of exciting. We'll get you filled in on all the details of all the series and where they stand. The NHL regular season is 2 weeks away from the playoffs starting. The season's wrapping up. Lots of playoff spots still to be determined. The order in which they stand will be determined in those next 2 weeks. We have a little bit of an idea. Some teams have clinched. Some teams are on the brink. Some teams are still fighting for their playoff lives. We'll get you caught up on all that and more in the NHL report later on. We also want to talk about the NBA and the Toronto Raptors. Their season, like I say, fast approaching into the playoffs. It's great because these playoffs are going to be going on all at the same time simultaneously, so it's pretty awesome about that. What we also want to talk about, we want you to get you filled in on all the other sports that are going on right now. We want to talk to you about the Owen Sound Junior B North Stars. We want to talk about the Toronto Blue Jays. We want to talk about anything going on around the way in terms of Canadians and sports. We'll get you caught up to that at the end of the show. We also got we want to talk about the golf story as well. Corey Connors of Listowel was in another tournament this past weekend. We'll tell you how he fared. And so let's just kick off the show right now. We want to start that with the WOAA. We're going to talk about that. Like I said, it was an unbelievable final and really a one team that went from wire to wire almost, with a couple blemishes in the second round of the playoffs, but they completely obliterated their competition in the final, and that led them to a third consecutive WOAA Senior AA Men's Championship. That, of course, is the Clinton Radars. The Clinton Radars and the Durham Thundercats wrapped up their series. Clinton defeating the Durham Thundercats 4-3 on the weekend to clinch their third consecutive title over the Durham Thundercats. Durham is a very solid team, and they should hang their head high. There's no shame in their season. They were 16-4 during the regular season. They only lost 6 times, I believe, or excuse me, 5 times in the playoffs. 4 times to the Clinton Radars and once against the Ripley Wolves. But this team is an incredible team, and they will be good for years to come if that core sticks together season to season. The Clinton Radars, however, they only lost 2 games all season long. It's just unbelievable. 2 games to the Tillsonburg Thunder they lost. However, every other game they won. This team was just an incredible unit, really well-oiled, and they've proved their worth. And they led them to another WOA Senior AA Men's Championship, their third consecutive. So congratulations to the Clinton Radars. That puts the Raps pretty much on another season in the WOA Senior AA Men's League. And you know what, if TST continues to do these episodes come September, when the season will undoubtedly start up again, I do look forward to covering that once again for you, right here on TST Total Sports Talk. We want to take a little bit of a short break here. When we come back, we're going to talk about the OHL. Stick around. You are watching TST Total Sports Talk. Welcome back. We want to switch gears now to the Ontario Hockey League. The first round series are going underway right now. The Owen Sound Attack are in the thick of it against the London Knights. They had 3 games this past week. Let's get you caught up on where they stand after those 3 games. First game saw the Attack and the London Knights from the Bayshore and Owen Sound, where Owen Sound had home ice advantage. Attack taking the first game 5-4 was the final. They lead the series 1-0. Olivier Lafreniere made 22 of 26 for the victory, while Joseph Rainmaker stopped 38 of 43. Alan Lethargic scored his first 2 of the playoffs. Nick Suzuki added a goal and an assist, and Kevin Hancock with a goal and an assist. Maxime Shushko's goal into the third period was the game winner. It was his first of the playoffs. Marcus Phillips adding 2 assists. Owen Sound goes 2 for 3 on the power play and has 43 shots on goal. On the London side, it was Alex Formenton with 2, Richard Whitaker with 1, and Jacob Golden with 1. Evan Bouchard had 2 assists, and Liam Foodie had an assist. London 2 for 3 on the power play. They had 26 shots on net. The Attack come out on top 5-4 in game number 1 to take a 1-0 series lead. In the follow-up game, this one would need overtime. The Owen Sound Attack defeating the London Knights 4-3 was the final. The Attack now lead the series 2-0. Olivier Lafreniere, 18 of 21 in the nets for the Attack to get the victory, while Joseph Raymakers was very busy. He had 47 shots against, stopping 43 in the loss. Owen Sound went 2 for 6 on the power play, while London went 1 for 2. Like I said, Owen Sound out shooting London 47 of 21. Brett McKenzie had a game. He scored his first 2 of the playoffs, and the second was the game winner in overtime to seal it. Alan Lethargic continued his hot start. 3 goals now in the playoffs. He had a goal and an assist. Aiden Dudas also added his first. Nick Suzuki added 3 assists, and Kevin Hancock with 2 at the Bayshore in Owen Sound. For the London side, it was Alex Formenton adding his 3rd, 4th, and 5th of the playoffs for the hat trick. Evan Bouchard, Tyler Rollo, and Cole Timken added assists for the London Knights, but they were unable to come up with a victory in game number 2. The Attack lead this series now 2-0. And the series then shifted to the Budweiser Gardens in London for game number 3, and it was the Attack once again coming out on top. This one again needed overtime, and 4-3 was the final for the Attack. Owen Sound now has a commanding 3-0 lead on the London Knights. Olivier Lafreniere stopped 23 of 26 for the victory, while Joe Raymakers was busy again. 42 shots against, he stopped 38 of them in the loss. Alan Lethargic's 4th of the playoffs would be the game winner in overtime 33 seconds in. He also added an assist. Brett McKenzie supplied a ton of offense. He had 2 goals and 2 assists on the night, for 4 points. He assisted on Lethargic's overtime winner. Sean Dursey would add his first of the playoffs, and Ethan Zapula would have an assist. On the London side, it was Evan Bouchard and Tyler Rollo who had a goal and an assist apiece. Sergei Popov scored his first of the playoffs as well. Alex Formenton continued his hot start. He had an assist, and Cole Timken also added an assist. But the London Knights have a huge mountain to climb. They are down 3-0 in their opening series against the Owen Sound Attack. Like I said, Attack, man, they are good, and they look really strong in their first round series against the London Knights. Let's look now at the playoffs, the playoff bracket. As we start right now in the Eastern Conference, the Hamilton Bulldogs and the Ottawa 67s are currently tied in their series 1 game apiece. Hamilton winning the first game 6-3, while the Ottawa 67s came back in the second game. 5-4 was the final there. That series, like I said, all knotted up at 1. The next game in the series goes tonight at 7 o'clock in Ottawa. Switching over to the Barrie Colts and the Mississauga Steelheads. It was Barrie over Mississauga last night, 5-3. That series is now tied at 1 after Mississauga defeated the Barrie Colts 6-2 in the first game. Third game of the series goes tonight at 7 o'clock in Mississauga against between the Steelheads and the Barrie Colts. Third series we want to look at is the Kingston Frontenacs and North Bay Battalion. That series is knotted at 1. North Bay taking the first game 5-2, while Kingston answered back with a Game 2 victory 4-3. Game 3 of that series goes tonight in North Bay at 7 o'clock between the North Bay Battalion and the Kingston Frontenacs. And finally on the east side is the Niagara Ice Dogs and the Oshawa Generals. The Niagara Ice Dogs lead that series now 2-0 after a pair of victories in games 1 and 2. 4-2 was the final in the first game, 6-1 the final in the second game. Series now shifts to Oshawa, where they will lock up for game number 3 tonight. That's a 7:05 puck drop between the Generals and the Ice Dogs. Switching over to the Western Conference side now, the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds continued to dominate, take their regular season domination and move it into the playoff round as they currently lead their first round series against the Saginaw Spirit 3-0 after a 7-4 victory against the Spirit last night. They won the first 2 games 5-2 and 8-0 respectively. Game number 4 will go Wednesday, March the 28th at 7:05 between these two teams, with the Greyhounds looking to sweep out the Spirit in the first round. Secondly, it's the Kitchener Rangers and the Guelph Storm. Kitchener leading that series 2-0 after a pair of victories on home ice. First one 7-2, the second one 2-1. The third game of this series goes Tuesday, March the 27th. That's tonight against between the Guelph Storm and Kitchener Rangers. That goes from Guelph, the Sleeman Center, at 7 o'clock. Game number 3. The Sarnia Sting and the Windsor Spitfires are currently locked at 1 after 2 games in their first round series. Windsor taking the first game 6-2 and Sarnia answering back 4-1 in the second game. Game 3 of that series goes tonight at 7:05 in Windsor from the WFCU Center. And finally, your Owen Sound Attack and the London Knights, of course. Owen Sound leading this series now 3-0, thanks to 2 overtime wins in the last 2 games. Game 4 of this series goes Thursday, March the 29th at 7 p.m. Yes, like I said, the Owen Sound Attack are on a roll. They're playing very, very well right now, and they look to sweep out the London Knights. Anytime you can get a sweep in the first round heading into the second round could be very crucial in terms of making sure that your team has plenty of rest, but it could also work against you. The more time off you have in between series generally would lead to maybe some rust on the part of your team for not playing on a regular basis. But either way, it's an advantage to get through that first round and make it on to the second round. In a matchup of 4 versus 5, which Owen Sound and London are, it's a very, very good chance that stands that the Owen Sound Attack could potentially get the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds in the second round. That could be a mountainous climb for your Owen Sound Attack. This has been the OHL Report for this week's episode of TST. We'll be right back after this. You are watching TST Total Sports Talk. Welcome back to the program, everybody. Andrew Rogers here for TST Total Sports Talk. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you're enjoying the episode thus far. We move now to the point in the program where we want to talk about the NHL and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Maple Leafs very busy this past week. They had 4 games in hand. Let's get you caught up on those to start. Maple Leafs visiting the Amalie Arena in Tampa, Florida to take on the Tampa Bay Lightning. They would fall 4-3 was the final. Tampa improving to 50-19-4 on the season, while the Maple Leafs fall to 43-23-7. Frederik Andersen got the start and got the loss for the Maple Leafs. He stopped 21 of 25 in the loss. Tampa Bay starter Andrei Vasilevskiy stopped 27 of 30 for the victory. Scoring for your Toronto Maple Leafs was James Van Riemsdyk. He had his 32nd and 33rd on the night, while Zach Hyman added his 14th. Mitch Marner, Tyler Bozak, and Nazem Kadri all added assists. For the Lightning, they had 4 different goal scorers on the evening. Victor Hedman with his 13th, Ryan McDonough with his 4th, Nikita Kucherov with his 37th, and Alex Killorn's 14th was the winner. Steven Stamkos also added an assist for the Lightning. Final score in this one, 4-3, Tampa Bay. Maple Leafs continuing their week with a matchup against the Nashville Predators from the Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, Tennessee. Maple Leafs coming out on top against the league's top team. 5-2 was the final. Maple Leafs improving to 44-23-7, while the Predators fall to 48-15-10. Pekka Rinne got the start for Nashville. He got the loss, stopping 23 of 28, while Frederik Andersen was very sharp in the net. He rebounded nicely, 23 of 25 for the victory. Scoring for the Maple Leafs was James Van Riemsdyk. He had a goal and an assist. Mitch Marner also added a goal and an assist. Austin Matthews had a goal, and William Nylander a goal, and Jake Gardner with a goal. Morgan Riley added 3 assists, and Tyler Bozak with 2. Scoring for the Nashville Predators was Victor Arvidsson and Scott Hartnell, adding assists for PK Subban, Mike Fisher, and Austin Watson. Again, this score, 5-2. Maple Leafs was the final. Maple Leafs continuing their week, matchup on Saturday on Hockey Night in Canada at the Air Canada Centre against the Detroit Red Wings. Maple Leafs coming out on top. 4-3 was the final. Detroit falling to 27-37-11, while the Leafs improved to 45-23-7. Frederik Andersen was very busy, very sharp. 38 of 41 for the victory, while Jimmy Howard stopped 25 of 29 for the loss. Scoring on the Detroit side was Dylan Larkin with his 12th, Tyler Bertuzzi with his 3rd, and Franz Nielsen with his 15th, adding assists for Nicholas Kronwall and Danny DeKeyser. On the Maple Leafs side, it was Kasperi Kapanen with his 7th, Connor Brown with his 14th, William Nylander with his 17th, and Nazem Kadri's 29th was the game winner. Austin Matthews adding an assist for the Leafs. And the Leafs finally wrapping their week with a matchup against the Buffalo Sabres at the Air Canada Centre in Toronto. This one was not the way the Maple Leafs envisioned. A 3-2 loss to the Atlantic's last place team, the Buffalo Sabres. 3-2 was the final. Maple Leafs dropping to 45-24-7, while the Sabres improved to 24, 40, and 12. They have Chad Johnson to thank for that. He stopped 39 of 41 in the victory, while Frederik Andersen got the start once again, stopping 24 of 27 in the loss. Scoring for your Maple Leafs for Patrick Marleau was his 24th, and Nazem Kadri hit the 30-goal plateau this season. He had, like I said, his 30th. He was also on the score sheet. Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, and Jake Gardiner adding assists. For the Buffalo Sabres, it was Jack Eichel adding his 23rd, and 24th was the winner in the third period. Casey Nelson also scoring his third in the third period to erase a 2-1 Maple Leaf lead in the third. Zemgus Girgensons adding 2 assists, Jason Pominville with 1, and Kyle Okposo with 1, as the Sabres stunned the Maple Leafs 3-2 was the final. Looking now at your Maple Leafs leading scorers, you got Mitch Marner up at the top, 20 goals, 45 assists, good for 65 points. He leads William Nylander in the second spot. He has 17 and 37, good for 54. Austin Matthews is 29 and 24 for 53. Nazem Kadri, 30 and 22 for 52. James Van Riemsdyk leads the team in goals, 34 and 18 for good for 52. Morgan Riley, 6 and 42 for 48. Jake Gardiner, 5 and 40 for 45. Patty Marleau, 24 and 19 for 43. And Tyler Bozak and Zach Hyman are in the 9 and 10 spot, respectively. Looking now at your overall leaders for the NHL, Connor McDavid's been on quite a roll of late, and that has vaulted him into the number 1 spot in the NHL scoring lead. He looks to repeat as the NHL scoring champion from a year ago. He has 39 goals, 60 assists, good for 99 points. He has a 3-point cushion on Nikita Kucherov of Tampa Bay. He has 38 and 58 for 96. Nate McKinnon, 38 and 54 for 92. He's tied with the beginning Malkin for third. Malkin with 42 and 50, good for 92. Claude Giroux of Philadelphia, 26 and 65, good for 91. He leads the NHL in assists. He's tied with Blake Wheeler of the Winnipeg Jets. Anze Kopitar continues his hot stretch, 34 and 54, good for 88. He's in the 6th spot. Steven Stamkos is number 7, 27 and 59, good for 86. Phil Kessel at 30 and 55 is 85. He's in the 8th spot. Wheeler, as mentioned, from the Winnipeg Jets, 20 and 65 for 85. And Alexander Ovechkin, the NHL goal-scoring leader, 45 and 38, good for 83. He's in the 10th spot. Switching over now to your NHL standings, so you got the Atlantic Division we'll start with. The Tampa Bay Lightning and the Boston Bruins are in the 1-2 spot in the Atlantic, separated by 2 points, with the Bruins holding 2 games in hand. Toronto Maple Leafs in the 3 spot. They don't look like they're going anywhere. They have 97 points to this point in the season. The Florida Panthers are at number 4. They have 85 points. They are still sticking around in the wild card, while Montreal, Detroit, Ottawa, and Buffalo have all been eliminated from postseason contention. We'll get to the wild card in a minute. First, to the Metro Division, you have the Washington Capitals leading the Metro with 97 points. They are in the 1st spot. The number 2 seed is the Pittsburgh Penguins at 92. Columbus Blue Jackets sitting in the number 3 spot. They are tied with Philadelphia at 89 points apiece. They hold the number 3 spot. Philadelphia in the number 4 is the number 1 wild card. They have 89 points, and the New Jersey Devils are in the number 2 spot in the wild card at 86 points. 1 point better than the Florida Panthers, who have been on quite a roll of late. You have the Carolina Panthers at number 6. Number 7 is the Rangers, and the number 8 seed is the Islanders at 72 in the Metro. But like I say, in the wild card, it's Philly, New Jersey, and Florida, really, that are in contention for those 2 wild card positions in the Eastern Conference. Switching over now to the Western Conference, we go to the Central Division. The Nashville Predators have clinched the playoff spot. They are number 1 in the Central, 107 points. The Winnipeg Jets, for the first time in 3 seasons, are headed back to the playoffs. They have 102 points. They are sitting in the number 2 spot. The number 3 seed, Minnesota Wild, are at 93 points. You have the Colorado Avalanche at 90 points, 1 better than the St. Louis Blues. And then you have the Dallas Stars at 84 and the Chicago Blackhawks at 72. They will miss the postseason for the first time in 10 seasons. You can see the wild card there with Colorado sitting in the number 2 spot. As we switch over to the Pacific Division, the Vegas Golden Knights have clinched their playoff spot. It's their first, playoff berth as the inaugural franchise. They just continue to set all sorts of historical records. The San Jose Sharks are at number 2 in the Pacific, 97 points. Anaheim Ducks at 91 are in the number 3 seed. The Los Angeles Kings are in the number 1 wild card. They are tied with Anaheim with 91 points. You have the Calgary Flames falling out of it fast, 80 points in the number 5 spot. Then you have Edmonton, Vancouver, and Arizona all been eliminated from playoff contention. Like I said, the wild card race is very interesting. Anaheim at 91, LA at 91, Colorado at 90, and St. Louis at 89, all fighting for those 2 wild card positions in the Western Conference. Right now, as it stands, you would have Nashville against Colorado, Winnipeg against Minnesota, Vegas at Los Angeles, San Jose and Anaheim on the west side, while on the east side you'd have Tampa Bay and New Jersey, Boston and Toronto, Washington and Philly, and Pittsburgh and the Columbus Blue Jackets. Yes, it's a very exciting time right now in the NHL. 2 weeks left to go in the regular season, and the playoffs are just around the corner, which is the most exciting time of year in the NHL, and there is a ton of juicy matchups, as you can see, in the first round if the playoffs were to start today. However, they don't. There's a lot of moving parts to be decided in these next 2 weeks. Up next for your Toronto Maple Leafs, Wednesday, March the 28th at 7:30, they are at the Air Canada Centre against the visiting Florida Panthers. Then on Friday, March the 30th, they are at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, to take on the New York Islanders. Puck drop there at 7 o'clock. Then on Saturday, March the 31st, it's a battle of Canadian teams at the Air Canada Centre in Toronto as the Maple Leafs welcome in the Winnipeg Jets. And then next Monday, they take on again the Buffalo Sabres for the last time this season at the Air Canada Centre on April the 2nd. This has been all for your NHL report and your Toronto Maple Leafs report. We'll be right back after this. Stick around. You are watching TST Total Sports Talk. Welcome back to the program, everybody. Andrew Rogers here for TST Total Sports Talk. Thank you very much for joining me. As always, it's a pleasure to have you here. Want to switch now to the National Basketball Association and the NBA report and your Toronto Raptors report. Raptors were busy last week, 4 games on the schedule. Let's give you a recap of those games right now. Raptors starting their week at the Amway Center in Orlando, Florida, taking on the Orlando Magic. They were victorious in this one. 93-86 was the final. Raptors improving to 53-18, while the Magic fall to 21-50. Kyle Lowry led the Raptors with 25 points. He had 5 boards and 8 assists to go with that. Serge Ibaka added 13 and 6 rebounds. DeLon Wright with 10 and 5 rebounds and 4 assists. Norman Powell with 10 and Jonas Valanciunas 9 points, 8 boards in the victory for the Raptors. Leading the Orlando Magic was Shelvin Mack. He had 17 points, while Aaron Gordon chipped in 16 and 6 boards in the loss for the Magic. Again, the final in this one, 93-86 for your Toronto Raptors. They would follow that up the next night with a matchup against the Cleveland Cavaliers at the Quicken Loans Arena in Cleveland, Ohio. Cleveland coming out on top in a barn burner. 132-129 was the final. Raptors falling to 53-19, while the Cavaliers improved to 42-29. LeBron James was all over the place in this game, having a triple-double for the Cavaliers. 35 points, a double-double, not a triple-double. 35 points, 7 boards, 17 assists for LeBron in this one. Kyle Lowry led the Raptors, 24 points, 7 assists, but it wasn't enough. Like I said, Raptors falling 132-129 to the Cavaliers, the final in this one. Raptors would then continue their week with a matchup against the Brooklyn Nets at the Air Canada Centre in Toronto. They would come out victorious in this one. 116-112 was the final for your Raptors. They improved to 54-19 on the season, while the Brooklyn Nets fall to 23-50. Kyle Lowry again led the Raptors in scoring on this night, 25 points. He had 10 rebounds and 12 assists for the triple-double. Very impressive for Kyle Lowry. Jonas Valanciunas added 23 and 8 rebounds, while DeMar DeRozan had 21. For the Brooklyn Nets, D'Angelo Russell had a triple-double of his own, 18 points, 11 boards, 13 assists, while Rondae Hollis-Jefferson added 18 points. Also, Alan Krabby with 18 points, but the Brooklyn Nets would fall to the Raptors on this night by 4. 116-112 was the final. Raptors victorious on this night. They would continue and wrap up their week against the LA Clippers at the Air Canada Centre in Toronto on Sunday. Raptors falling to the Clippers, 117-106 was the final. Clippers with a huge win on this night. For the Raptors, they fall to 54-20, while the Clippers improve to 39-34. They have ex-Raptor Lou Williams to thank for this, as he scored 18 of his 26 points in the fourth quarter. He added 7 assists to go along with that. Tobias Harris added 20 and 5 boards, while Montrezl Harrell added 19 and 6 rebounds. Fred VanVleet and Jonas Valanciunas shared the scoring leaders for your Toronto Raptors. VanVleet adding 16, Valanciunas 16 and 10 boards. Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan were quiet on this night. They both added 11 points apiece in the loss to the Clippers. 117-106 was the final. We look now at your NBA standings. We start in the Eastern Conference. Toronto Raptors, Boston Celtics, Cleveland Cavaliers, Philadelphia 76ers, and the Indiana Pacers all clinching playoff spots, while the New York Knicks, Chicago Bulls, Brooklyn Nets, Orlando Magic, and Atlanta Hawks are all eliminated for postseason contention. So we're really looking at 6 through 10 right now. The Washington Wizards are at 40-33. They are 13.5 games back of the Raptors, but they are a game ahead of the Milwaukee Bucks in the 7th spot. You have the Miami Heat at 39-35, holding down the number 8 spot, but they are 5 games ahead of the Detroit Pistons at number 9. They are 34-40 and falling out fast. And the Charlotte Hornets at 34-41, 20.5. They are 5.5 games back of the Miami Heat for the 8th and final playoff spot in the East. Over in the West, you have the Houston Rockets and the Golden State Warriors. They have clinched in the West. Houston at 60-14 own the NBA's best record. They are 5.5 games ahead of the Golden State Warriors for the number 1 spot in the West. You have the Portland Trailblazers at number 3. They are 45-28. Oklahoma City Thunder at number 4. They are 44-31. New Orleans Pelicans 43-31. They are number 5. San Antonio Spurs at 43-31. They are number 6. Utah Jazz at 42-32. They are number 7. You have the Minnesota Timberwolves at 42-33. They are number 8. Denver Nuggets at 40-34 are falling out of it fast. They are in the number 9 spot, and the LA Clippers holding on for dear life, 39-34 in the number 10 spot. The Lakers, Sacramento Kings, Dallas Mavericks, Memphis Grizzlies, and Phoenix Suns have all been eliminated from postseason contention on the west side. As we look now at your playoff bracket, as you can see, the only teams that are clinched are on here. 1 is Houston, 2 is Golden State on the west side, while you have Toronto, Philadelphia, Indiana, Cleveland, and Boston on the east side. Again, playoff seedings and positioning can still be determined over these next few weeks, but the playoffs are coming up for the NBA, and that should be very exciting as well. Up next for your Toronto Raptors, Tuesday, the March 27th, they have a matchup at the Air Canada Center at 7:30 against the Denver Nuggets. That goes tonight. And then finally, they wrap their week. They only have a 2-game week this week as they play the Boston Celtics at the TD Garden in Boston, Massachusetts. That's on Saturday, March the 31st, a 7:30 tip-off in that one. It's a great time for all the sports. They're all in playoff situations, so it's really exciting all the way around. This has been your NBA report and your Toronto Raptors report for this week's episode of TST. We'll be right back after this. You are watching TST Total Sports Talk. Welcome back to the program, everybody. Andrew Rogers here for another episode of TST Total Sports Talk. Thank you very much for joining me as always. It's a pleasure to have you guys here. First thing we want to talk about, there's a couple things that we want to discuss with you. The first and foremost is that the Toronto Blue Jays season starts this week. As we look right now at the schedule for your Toronto Blue Jays, come April, they start their season with a match with a 4-game set against the New York Yankees. As you can see, Thursday, March the 29th, that series gets underway. 3:37 is the first pitch on Thursday as they will honor the number of Roy Halladay, the late Roy Halladay, number 32. They will retire that number. J.A. Happ will get the opening day start for your Toronto Blue Jays. They're in the midst of a 2-game set right now against the St. Louis Cardinals at Olympic Stadium in Montreal. They dropped their first game 5-3 at the hands of the Cardinals last night, but they play again tonight before they open their season against the New York Yankees. A couple other things we want to talk about. Corey Connors of Listowel, Ontario, played in the Corrales Punta Cana Resort and Club Championship this past week. Unfortunately, it was another 4th-round collapse for Corey Connors. He shot a 4-over 76 in the final round, finished well back of winner Bryce Garnett, who finished at 18 under. Corey Connors finishing at 10 under, well back. But the tie for 13th that Corey Connors finished in was his highest finish on the PGA Tour. The sky is the limit for this guy. He's very, very impressive, and I could not be more prouder of him for representing the small town of Listowel well. And it's very impressive what he's doing. And once he does finally make that jump to being a regular on the PGA Tour, there is no question that he will give everybody on the PGA Tour a run for their money. Quite literally, almost. But anyways, yes. Other things we want to talk about, other household items. Canadian tennis star Denis Shapovalov, he advanced to the fourth round of the Miami Open with a 6-4, 3-6, 7-5 victory over Sam Querrey of the United States. He will now play the winner of Jack Stock versus Borna Coric in the fourth round. Milos Raonic of Thornhill, Ontario, he will play today in the fourth round against Jeremy Chardry of France. And then also Hockey Canada announcing that Sean Burke and Martin Brodeur will be the co-general managers for this year's World Hockey Championships. They will be held in Denmark from May 4th through to May 20th. Interesting note about the World Championships this year. It's quite interesting because in the World Championships, the NHL players will be represented here. They will play in this tournament in Denmark for the World Hockey Championships 2018. Unlike the Olympics, where the NHL players were not present and accounted for. The interesting part about this is that the NHL continues to boycott the Olympics. The World Championships will become what the Olympics were, in my opinion. Like right now, for example, with the teams that have been eliminated, should they decide that they want to go and compete at the World Championships this season, the Team Canada could house the top three centers on that Team Canada forward unit. Could be Connor McDavid, Jonathan Toews, and John Tavares would be your top three centers. It's unbelievable. And the only reason that it's that unfathomable is that you have guys like Connor McDavid, Jonathan Toews, and John Tavares, who all made the playoffs last year, wouldn't even be eligible for this tournament if their teams made the playoffs this year. Unfortunately, their seasons for their respective teams didn't work out the way they wanted to. Thus, they're eligible to participate in that World Hockey Championship. Also, could be a goalie, Carey Price. He could lead that World Championship Canadian team in a battle in Denmark in May. It's really interesting, but we look forward to it anyway. So World Hockey Championships. Sean Burke, who led this team to a silver medal at the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics, heading Team Canada there, will co-general manager alongside Martin Brodeur for the World Hockey Championships in Denmark from May 4th to May 20th. That's just your sports house. That's just other sports headlines that are making the waves right now. We'll take one more break. We'll be right back to close the show. We'll be right back after this. You are watching TST Total Sports Talk. Welcome back, everybody. Andrew Rogers here for TST Total Sports Talk. Thank you very much for watching another episode of TST, episode 22 in the collection for Tuesday, March the 27th. Commentators Clothing was made and purchased from Vistaprint. Go to Vistaprint for all your custom apparel needs. They do great stuff and they deliver quite fast. Wrapping another week. We'll be doing this week after week, and we're very, very excited about that. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again next week. Andrew Rogers signing off for TST Total Sports Talk.